Hello, everyone. Let's continue our journey. You're sitting there, maybe in your warm, familiar room, with the soft yellow light casting gentle shadows on your notebook or glowing screen. Out there, the world is still rushing by, people moving fast, chasing time. But right here in this very moment, you've chosen to pause and listen to something deeper. And I'm pretty sure if you're still wondering, you've already started awakening, haven't you? So before you know it, take a moment to like the videos and subscribe, but only if you actually like what I do here. Try leaving a comment and let me know. Where are you listening to this morning, noon, or night? I'd truly love to know where your journey begins. Now sit quietly, reflect, and together begin the journey of recognition. Have you ever noticed that when you're truly at peace, everything just seems clearer? Not the kind of peace where you switch off your phone or close your door, but the kind of stillness without a name that rises from within like a lake without ripples. And then, almost magically, new ideas arrive, solutions reveal themselves, and even financial opportunities. Many people try hard to achieve peace. But here's the paradox: peace doesn't come from pursuit. It arrives when you pause, when you stop needing it, like how you can't force a lotus to bloom. You simply give it the right conditions, light water, and patience. One morning, I saw an elderly man meditating on the beach while behind him crowds of tourists fought for the perfect selfie spot. No one noticed him, but in that moment, I realized he was the calmest person on that beach. And perhaps the richest too, if richness were measured in inner fullness. Scientists are still proving that the parasympathetic state, our deep relaxation mode, helps regulate hormones, blood flow, and especially decision-making. When you're in that calm state, you begin to notice which choices stem from fear and which ones rise from awareness. Here's a curious fact: psychologists have found that people who spend just 10 minutes a day doing nothing tend to report higher life satisfaction and better financial management. They don't overreact to markets, they don't panic invest, yet they're often the ones who sustain long-term wealth. Have you tried sitting still for 5 minutes without grabbing your phone? No music, no podcast, just you with yourself. Sounds simple, but it isn't, because that's when the mind starts to stir. But if you get past those first few minutes, a new sky of stillness opens up, and that is where the journey of abundance truly begins. You might think, but how does that help my wallet? The answer: a lot, because only when you're quiet can you clearly see what you truly need. And when you see it, money starts flowing in the right direction, no longer pulled by habit, but guided by awareness. You don't have to become a monk or live in a temple. You just need a few moments of stillness each day. Maybe with your morning coffee, maybe before bed. But give yourself permission to do absolutely nothing and just listen. From that very point, you've already opened the first door of the journey from stillness to sufficiency. Have you noticed that money often gravitates toward people who seem peaceful? Not the kind of fake calm or forced positivity, but real serenity. They walk with ease, their eyes are clear, and their energy doesn't get pulled by the noise around them. These people might not get rich overnight, but they rarely fall into financial chaos. They don't panic when they lose a job, nor do they fear market shifts. Because deep down, they know money isn't the root of security. Inner peace is. And that state of being, strangely enough, attracts money. Naturally, money is energy. And like all forms of energy, it's drawn to stability. When you're anxious, impatient, or blaming the world, your energetic field gets chaotic. And money, being subtle, doesn't approach chaos. I once met a middle-aged woman selling noodles at a small alley corner. Her stall had no sign, no promotions, no social media. Yet every morning it was crowded. I asked her, "Do you have a secret formula?" She smiled warmly and said, "I don't think much. If people want to eat, I cook. If they don't, I wish them a good morning." That's simple, perhaps. But maybe her non-grasping, non-competing mindset was precisely what created the magnetic energy people wanted to return to. Her abundance wasn't in the bowl of noodles, it was in her presence. Modern neuroscience shows that anxiety reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles logic and financial decision-making. When you're afraid, you tend to swing between two extremes, spending recklessly to escape the feeling of lack or becoming obsessively frugal out of fear of loss. Both are signs of disconnection from inner harmony. You've probably seen people working endlessly, jumping from one project to another, and still, money seems to slip away. They always feel lacking, always think just a bit more. The more they strain, the more tangled their energy becomes. And money, seeing the confusion, quietly keeps its distance. Some of you may say, "But I know people who are constantly anxious and still rich." True, they might earn a lot. But if you look closer, those people are often unhappy, and money tends to leave them quickly in one way or another. Because money doesn't stay where it doesn't feel safe. Here's a lesser-known detail. People who build lasting wealth tend to have quiet habits. They walk slowly, spend time alone, meditate, or breathe mindfully. Not because it's trendy or spiritual, but because it's how they stabilize their state in a noisy world. If you're feeling financially suffocated today, try this simple act. Pull out your phone, switch to airplane mode, mute everything, and for just 3 minutes, sit with a warm glass of water. Inhale gently, exhale slowly. Don't fix anything, don't solve anything. Just allow yourself to pause. Because sometimes all it takes is for you to get still and everything starts to move towards you. Money is the same. It only finds its way to where there is peace, and that place can begin within you. Have you ever wondered why some people don't seem to try too hard, yet they're always lucky, while you working diligently, taking every personal development course, reading every financial book, still feel like the money isn't flowing your way? Perhaps you're overlooking something that both modern science and ancient wisdom quietly point to: vibrational frequency. Money, as we've said, is a form of energy. And energy doesn't move based on logic, it flows based on resonance. You don't need to understand quantum physics to feel this. Just think back to the last time you met someone who instantly made you feel at ease. Not because of what they said, but because of what they gave off. That's vibration. You too carry a frequency every morning you wake up. Some days feel light, some feel heavy the moment you open your eyes. That state you carry is your signal to the world. And the world, including money opportunities, clients' relationships, responds to that exact signal. Here's the tricky part. You can't fake your frequency. You might force positivity, say the right affirmations, even write passionate goals in your journal. But if deep inside there's still fear, doubt, or repressed anger, the world will sense it. Just like radio waves, no matter what content you broadcast, if you're on the wrong frequency, no one's going to receive it. Scientists are still working on measuring the vibrational signatures of emotions. Some studies suggest that states like gratitude, love, and compassion emit much higher frequencies than anger, shame, or resentment. And here's the fascinating part. People who live in these higher frequencies tend to attract more financial flow, not because they're lucky, but because they're not resisting the energy themselves. I once knew an engineer who quit his job to open a small tea shop. Everyone called him crazy, but he smiled calmly, saying, "I don't want to wake up every day feeling out of sync with life." The result: his tea shop didn't become a franchise, wasn't famous, but customers kept coming back simply because the tea tasted good and the atmosphere felt light. Even more surprising, he lived comfortably on that income and still had extra to invest a little each month. Try something today. The next time you're about to spend money buying something, sending it to someone, or just grabbing a morning coffee, pause and ask, what frequency am I vibrating at right now? If you feel fear, guilt, or tension, don't make the transaction yet. Breathe deeply, shift into a state of enoughness, then proceed. Because when you're aligned with the right frequency, money shows up like a song tuned to the perfect channel. You don't need to chase, you simply tune in. Here's a question to reflect on. What signals am I sending out into the universe every day? Not through your words, but through your actual felt sense inside. And if you answer that honestly, you'll begin to understand why money comes, or hasn't yet. Vibration doesn't lie, and money doesn't lose its way. When you start adjusting from within, the flow opens up on its own. There's something ironic about our desire for financial freedom. The more you crave it, the more likely you are to be trapped not by your situation, but by your own thoughts. You may have pushed yourself to work overtime, forced yourself into countless courses, and read all the finance books. And yet, something invisible still seems to block the flow of money towards you. The issue isn't in your effort, it's in your closed mind. A closed mind often shows up in two ways: judgment and fear of change. When you start to envy successful people, assuming they got lucky, or when you say things like, "I'm just not cut out for business," you're building a wall that blocks the natural flow of financial energy. These walls don't need bricks. They're built from limiting beliefs, the kind you don't even realize you're carrying. I once met an accountant who lived frugally, was disciplined, and worked hard, but over 10 years his income barely moved. One day during a group session, he suddenly broke down in tears. He realized that growing up, his mother used to say, "Wealth often comes with greed." That phrase, repeated over the years, became a subconscious belief. And unknowingly, he had been sabotaging his own success just to remain a good person. Neuroscientists are increasingly exploring how beliefs are processed in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. They found that limiting beliefs act like filters, deciding whether or not you'll allow yourself to receive opportunities. If you believe wealth is bad, then even when a brilliant investment appears, your brain will ignore it, seeing it as unsafe. So, how do you open your mind? The answer isn't more learning, it's unlearning. Not adding, but subtracting. Subtracting fear, subtracting rigidity, subtracting the idea that I must be a certain way to be worthy. An open mind begins when you see yourself with both light and shadow without judgment. And in that moment, you allow abundance to enter. Here's a subtle truth: wealth doesn't always come from earning more. It often comes from expanding your inner space so money has somewhere to stay. If you constantly feel lack no matter how much you earn, it will never be enough. But if you feel worthy, you'll hold wealth naturally without needing to grip it tightly. I invite you to try a simple exercise. Grab a pen and paper. Write down 3 core beliefs about money that you heard growing up. Then look at each one and ask, is this still true for me today? Sometimes letting go of just one belief can lift a lifetime of inner pressure. You have the right to open your heart. You don't have to become someone else. You just need to be less of the version of you that believed you weren't enough. The door to wealth has always been there, but it only opens from the inside. When you open your heart, money doesn't just walk in, it stays. Have you ever had one of those moments in the midst of life's chaos when you suddenly felt you didn't need to try anymore? Not because you've given up, but because something inside whispered you already have enough. Just like how love stops being a chase when you've truly come home to yourself. So what happens when you stop chasing money and let it find its way to you? That, my friend, is when you become one with inner peace. When you're truly grounded in peace, no more forcing, no more desperate striving, your energy shifts. You emit a frequency that's calm, clear, and inviting, a kind of quiet magnetism that says, I trust, I'm open, I'm enough. And that's when money and life begin to flow towards you effortlessly. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be enlightened. Inner peace isn't about escaping the world, it's about staying centered in the middle of it all. I once saw a single mother, after putting her child to sleep, sit by the window with a cup of tea and just breathe. She wasn't meditating, she wasn't visualizing wealth, she was simply being. And in that stillness, I saw abundance, not in her bank account, but in her presence. You may still face bills, delays, questions without answers, but now you stop reacting with fear. You breathe, you observe, you realign, and you remember money is not your rescuer. It's a companion. You don't beg it to stay. You become the kind of space it wants to return to. Behavioral scientists have found that people with lasting wealth often share one thing in common: they trust that life will rebalance itself. They don't spiral when things go wrong. They don't cling to control. They pause, adjust, and keep moving. Money loves this kind of energy. It feels safe there. I once heard about an elderly man living in the countryside. He didn't own much, no flashy house, no large savings. But his home was always full rice in the jars, clean water, fresh vegetables. Neighbors came for advice, seeds, sometimes even small loans. When asked, "Aren't you afraid they won't pay you back?" he smiled, eyes soft. "If I live in peace, whatever leaves me finds its way back." He wasn't rich by society's standards, but in the truest sense, he was wealthy beyond measure. So maybe the secret isn't in chasing more. Maybe it's in becoming still enough that everything starts moving towards you. You don't need to follow the light of others. You become the light, a steady beacon for abundance. Try this tomorrow before the world reaches you. Before news, emails, to-do lists, place your hand on your heart and ask, how can I live in peace today? You don't need a big answer. Maybe it's drinking water slowly, eating without rushing, taking 10 seconds between tasks to thank yourself. When inner peace becomes your home base, money no longer needs to be hunted. It simply returns home. Take a deep breath in and exhale gently. You've walked with me through a journey that wasn't loud, wasn't filled with theories, but was rich with stillness. Moments quiet enough for you to finally hear yourself. And within those silent spaces, something rare began to take root: the belief that you can live abundantly without giving up your peace. But you know this isn't the end. This is just a soft pause, a place where you gently set down the heavy backpack of old beliefs. You no longer need to prove yourself. You don't have to strive just to be accepted. You don't have to live according to anyone else's version of success. Every step you take, if it rises from peace, will lead you exactly where you're meant to be. You don't have to be rich like someone else. You only need to feel full in your own way. And that fullness doesn't come from luck. It comes from the harmony between your soul and the energy you send out each day. So, if tomorrow comes and the bills are still there, if the doubts still whisper, that's okay. Just remember this: you can sit calmly in the middle of the storm. You can smile while waiting, and you can be at peace even before the money arrives. That is the clearest sign of all that abundance is already on its way to you. The universe does not abandon those who know how to listen within, and money never turns away from those who live by the light inside. Wishing you success in your heart's true dreams.